All right, well, welcome everybody to the Royal We Live. Happy Monday night to you. It is good to be back, and I'm glad that we are all here after a nice long vacation. We took a vacation. I had taken a trip to California, back to visit the place in which I came from, right? Place from which I escaped the narcissistic and the toxic dynamics, and I came to St. Louis with my family. And for those of you who have not yet seen the organic video upload, I encourage you to check it out. I uploaded it this morning. Hey, Tanya, what's going on? You're here. Karina, Laura, hi. It's good to see people. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes and just talk a little bit about the trip. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Mary J. Silva. How are you? It's good to see you all here. I'm so glad that you're here. So, the trip to California that I took over the holidays was interesting. I was very nervous going into it, absolutely, up until I left, and I had to really identify a reason for going back to the toxic environment that I left from. And one of the things that I didn't get to talk about in the video, which I deserves its own video by itself, but I want to talk about the anxiety and fear that you have. And that's what this live session is going to be about. It's going to be talking about the real reason for your anxiety and your fear when it comes to dealing with narcissistically abusive people, toxic individuals. There's a reason why you're anxious. There's a reason why you are have fear, okay? And it's not because of the narcissist, all right? You're not afraid of the narcissist. That's not where the fear is. You're not anxious over the narcissist and how they're going to treat you. I've learned this. I know you're going to say, Kevin, what are you talking about? I am afraid of the narcissist. No. Here's what I've discovered you're really afraid of. Here's what you're really anxious about. Same thing as me. And I illustrated it in today's video that I uploaded where I was chained up on the wall. What you're really anxious about, what you're really afraid of, is yourself. All right? And I know a lot of you, like me, are going to say, no, I'm a good person. I'm a good Christian. I'm good. I'm not afraid of I know how to handle I know. Yes. We all know that we are good at handling things. But here's the truth. Narcissists pull out. They pull out of you the worst. And the fear and the anxiety is in the response. This is what you're afraid of. This is what you're anxious about, is your response. Can you withhold the anger, the aggression? Narcissists tend to draw out of you sadness, anger, frustration, hatred, right? They do. As a matter of fact, you walk away from the relationship with this stuff living inside of you. And this fear and the anxiety that you have now is of yourself. Will that come out? Will it come out? Can you contain it? Can you hold your peace? And you and I have a fear, and it's a good fear, of bringing that anger and that hostility to the surface. We don't want to, right? And it's not fair. We tend to look at narcissists and say, why do they get to? Why do they get to blow up in anger and everybody's okay with it? Well, first of all, people are not okay with it, right? You're no longer in their life. I'm no longer in their life. So they're learning that, no, people are not okay with it. And I know it seems like they move on and they're happy and they never apologize for anything. And it seems like everything's good. No, nothing is good in their life. Their relationships sink and get demolished nonstop. They're constantly looking for new people because once they turn into that mode, once their narcissism comes out, it's downhill from there. There's no salvaging it. You and I get stuck in this fear once we realize what took place. We get stuck in this fear of, if they say something, I'm going to say something back. If they push my buttons, I'm going to push their buttons. They're not going to disrespect me anymore. And this is how we start to live, and this is what we're afraid of. And the reason we're afraid of it is because that's not who we are. You're not that person. You're not a bully. Neither am I. We don't want to go up to people and Say, how dare you? You want to call me names? You want to call me names? Huh? You punk, you punk, you punk. No, we're going to sound like narcissists, right? That's what they do. But we're afraid of that coming out because we've been so hurt by them. We're afraid of that coming out of us. We're afraid of that anger. And narcissists, if you give them long enough, if you go back, they will pull it out of you. They'll try because that's where they're comfortable. That's what makes them feel powerful, right? Y'all hear me okay? Everybody there? Y'all hear me okay tonight? It is so good to hear you, to see you. Life is a Journey. Really enjoyed your latest video. I can relate. Having worked in an environment overseas with so many narcs, and I eventually had to leave and stay no contact. Yes. Love the high definition. Thank you, Cynthia. You help people so much. You've been helping me. Thank you, Cynthia. 2 Cynthias in a row. Cynthia and Cynthia Province. D Doll. What's going on, D? How are you? I'm so glad to see you. Dealt with getting rid of abusive person that I cleaned house for today. Good. Sad, but needed. Cannot afford it any longer. That's good, 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 good. I hope you all had a good holiday. I really do. D-Doll, what does 5-5 mean? Help me out here. You can hear me. Good. Okay. Good. Excellent. So I did have a trip back to California. Did visit the narcissistically abusive people that were in my life. I had to make the trip not about them. It was about taking a journey back to my hometown. Not my hometown. The place where I grew up. This is my hometown. As a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting when people were telling me, "Oh, you're going back home for the holidays." No, I'm home. This is home. I'm visiting California for the holidays. California is no longer my home, and I remember 10 years ago I wanted to get out of that place, and it was the people and the attitudes and the narcissism that helped further drive and push me out. And I'm glad that I experienced that narcissism in California that pushed me out. That's not to say St. Louis, Missouri, and the Midwest doesn't have narcissists. They're everywhere. But being shown that in California and driven out by it has put me in a place where I'm awakened to it, so it doesn't affect me here in St. Louis, Missouri, right? Same thing with you. I'm willing to bet many of you have not dealt with a narcissist since your last narcissistic ex or family member or whatever it is you're getting away from, right? Now you can spot them a mile away. Now you're more conservative. Now you're more reserved. You're less likely to wear your heart on your sleeve. You're less likely to approach situations just ready to get naked, right away. And I don't mean that in a, physical, sexual way. I mean, get naked with your emotions, right? I've said this in other videos. As a matter of fact, it's in the 5 steps, the survival guide for empaths. One of the things I said in the video was that we tend to just get naked real fast. And what I meant is we let our feelings fly. We're all up in people's faces like puppy dogs going, I can help you. I can help you. I love you. I'm good. I'm good. Right? Because that's the nature. That's the empath nature. I can tell something's wrong with you. I can make you happy. I can make you happy. And narcissists look at that and they enjoy it. But at the same time, narcissists are like, why can't I be like that? I hate you. I hate that you are so giving. I hate that you're so caring. I hate that you're happy all the time. On and on and on, right? So now after you experience narcissistic abuse, chances are you're not that quick to just rush out there and get emotionally naked like that, right? You're more reserved. You take your time. You get to know people, find out more about them. And I do the same thing. So here in Missouri, in the Midwest, I am less likely to experience narcissistic abuse. As a matter of fact, I won't experience narcissistic abuse. 1, I can see him a mile away, just like you. 2, I won't allow myself in that type of a dynamic or that type of a relationship again, right? So it's just going back to dealing with some of the old and still healing and still processing the old wounds. Even though I talk about narcissistic abuse, I teach and I help people with narcissistic abuse, I still struggle. The struggle is real. Listen, it was a battle trying to get the nerve to go back to California, and I had to check myself and my emotions, nonstop. Why am I going and all this and that? It was rough. I almost didn't want to go, and I had to realize that, man, that's a big piece of me. I love to travel. And it was great because now I've seen that I can travel with my kids. I can travel with my family. They did great, by the way, on the drive. They were fun. They enjoyed it. No crying, no whining. We stayed in hotels along the way, and we traveled from Missouri to Oklahoma, stayed in Oklahoma, stayed in New Mexico, stayed in Arizona, and then finally made it to California. And the same thing back. Kids loved it. It was great. Excuse me. And it was a great experience. With that, I want to open it up and talk with you all, see how everybody's doing on the Royal We tonight. How was everybody's holiday? How was everybody's New Year's? What are some of the New Year's self-promises and resolutions that you all have? I would love to hear some of that. D, I also am no longer afraid to call out manipulators. Yes. It makes us so. Oh, also, the telephone line is open. You can see the telephone number right behind me over here or up over here. I'm not sure because there's such a lag time in the video that I can't tell right now where it's at. But I'm glad you like the new background. Very cool. Very cool. There's so many of them, so many narcissists. Yes, there are. Like the background. Cool, like Back to the Future 2. I never would have thought of Back to the Future 2, but Back to the Future 2 is one of my all-time favorite movies. For real. I am a huge Back to the Future fan. I wish they could have made a part 4. And I was the first in line. If there was ever to be a hoverboard, I would have been the first in line to buy one of those. D-Doll asked, Kevin, talk to us about recognizing manipulation. Absolutely. So manipulation, thank you so much, D-Doll, for that question, because I did experience a lot of manipulation, especially going back to California. So let me share a little bit about the engagement that I had with the abusive narcissist. I spent some time with them face to face. What's interesting is these people aren't my family, right? They're not my siblings. They're in-laws. I visited with them. And surprisingly, they could not stay away from trying to talk to me. I would go outside. I went into the situation real cool. Didn't have a whole lot to say. I'm me. You know, I have my personality. You guys know you ladies and you gentlemen, you know my personality by now through the videos. And so I'm me. I'm talkative, but I was real low key because I realized I'm out of my realm. I'm not what we're here for. It's not about me. You know, this is a time for for my in-laws to visit with their family, and so I was just real chill. But they continued to gravitate towards me. All right. And I see this as a bit of manipulation. I do. Keep in mind that narcissistically abusive people, they say horrible things about you. And so it's really interesting when you go back into that environment and they're all up in your face with smiles. Hi. And narcissists can be the first one. You want to know how to spot a narcissist? I kid you not. Oftentimes, yes, as empaths, we can be real naked real fast with our emotions, but narcissists get real touchy real fast. They're the first to run up to you and put their arm out and hug, whether you want them to or not. They just go for it, man. And I know some people are like, well, I like that, and I do that too. But, you know, and so it's kind of, but that's one of the warning signs. You know, someone's right up, you don't really know them. Especially if they've dogged you out, called you names, ridiculed you, criticized you. Suddenly they're running up to you with their arm extended. Hi, I want to give you a big hug, as if there was never any trouble, never any drama. This is a part of the narcissistically abusive people's manipulation. This is a part of their, oh, I don't remember anything I said. I must not have done anything wrong. I don't remember it. Let's just move past it. And even if you bring it up, no, you know, You called me a-hole and idiot and ignorant and oh, I did. Did I do that? Oh, 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 I'm sorry. I know. Oh, I know. And they give you a big hug, right? It's not real. It's very fake, very ungenuine because they don't have a real sense of genuine emotion. You can tell when you're talking with somebody when they have that stop and focus on you, listen to what you're saying, and engage with that. Engage to what you're saying. This is what creates communication. You talking with me, I'm listening to you. I'm talking with you, you're listening to me. I'm not running up to you, putting my arm around you, hugging you right away without saying a word, without knowing you. And you shouldn't be doing that either because there's no reason for that, right? There's no reason for that. That's a part of manipulation. That's a red flag that you need to watch out for. These people, they run around, can't wait to put their arm around you, and you don't even know them. That's a sign of manipulation. That's a sign that they're not there to really get to know you. They're just there to throw their arm around you to try to prove something or do something or get something or be bold or be brave or whatever the case may be. And so you want to watch out for that type of stuff because it's without permission and it's already showing a lack of consideration for boundaries, right? How many people out there? Me personally, I'm a hugger. I am a hugger. I love hugs. I love getting a big squeeze, and I'm sure many of you are as well. But at this point, I would rather that big hug and big squeeze be heartfelt and genuine and somebody who I know and I'm comfortable with, and then we could squeeze all day long. That's fine. But I would not just run up to somebody I don't know or don't talk to or somebody I made fun of in the past and just run up and give them a big hug without talking to them, without trying to find out how they're doing and where they're at. Narcissists aren't like that. And this is how you can tell narcissists. If they're not willing to talk about things, they're just going to run up and they're going to give you a hug, which shows that they cross boundaries still. They do not understand. They can't comprehend the fact that people have boundaries. And maybe that person doesn't want them to hug them. Maybe a person doesn't want to be touched, right? But a narcissist is going to jump right over that. They're gonna skip that. They're not going to care about that, and they're just going to go dive in head first to get that hug. That's a red flag. That's a sign of manipulation, right? Yeah. Hugging without consent is a confrontation of eliminating your personal boundaries. That's right. That's right. It is. It is. I actually learned this lesson a hard way, and again, because you're also you're not narcissistic when somebody corrects you and you take it, you think about it. Okay, as I said, I am a hugging type person. I like to hug. I was with an aunt of mine, a family member of mine, and who just had a pretty bad argument with her husband, my uncle. And I happened to be present, and my uncle stormed out, jumped in the car, and sped off. And I just went to my aunt and I said, "Are you okay?" I was being the typical empath, hard on my sleeve, and I was trying to do the right thing. I said, "Are you okay?" And I put my arm up to give her a hug because I can tell when I asked her, "Are you okay?" I can see the tears starting to well up. And so I went for a hug to embrace my aunt. And she stopped me. She said, "Kevin, don't." Just like that. And it startled me because at that moment I thought, well, I felt comfortable in the situation. It was my aunt, and I just wanted to make sure she was okay. But at that moment, I realized, well, people have boundaries. Not everybody, even if they're hurting, not everybody wants a hug. They don't want that. It doesn't matter if it's family or not. And I get that. So I learned that as a valuable lesson. And ever since then, I don't just do that. Even if somebody's hurting, even if somebody's crying, I don't just go off. I don't just go in for a hug. It's better to stay with the person, find out how they're doing. Are you okay? Is there anything I could do to help? I learned that that's a better thing to do is just ask, is there something I can do to help you? I'm willing to help you out, right? And with that, yeah. Anybody going to call in? Talk about the holidays? How are you all doing? Yeah, absolutely, D-Doll. Absolutely. And that's what I learned too. Some people just aren't, but that's how you know narcissists and from empaths who just make mistakes. And narcissists will continue to go in for that hug because it's what they want to do. They don't want to stop and listen. They don't want to stop and think about the other person. When that situation happened with my aunt, I did stop. I did listen. I paid attention to her body language, which was don't. I have a boundary, yeah, but don't do that. And that's, and that's okay, right? I wasn't offended by it. I get it. I learned something new. I learned that it's okay to be upset, to cry, to be hurt, and not need a hug. Sometimes just having someone there to listen to. And in that situation, it would have been better for me just to listen. Yeah. What are you all talking about? Thank you so much, by the way, for the compliments on the video. The video was made possible in large by all of you. I hope you enjoyed the drone shots. I absolutely love the drone. Brian, the worst holiday in years, sadly. I have been there. I have had horrible holidays. And as a matter of fact, Brian, hang in there because it will get better. The this past holiday made up for the holidays where I spent with the narcissist, where I was yelled at, dragged out in front of the whole family and yelled at and accused of all kinds of stuff, not caring or not liking the family, whatever. I've had many Christmas, not many, but I had one Christmas particularly that just ruined it for me. Ruined it. And D-Doll, that's a good question. I'll answer that in a minute. But what I learned about the holidays, Brian, is that as long as it depends on narcissists and other people, then Christmases and holidays and things like that, birthdays, whatever, can always have the risk and the potential of being ruined because narcissists will find a way to either try to control it or ruin it if they can't control it. It's not until you do things, and that was the purpose of the video that I uploaded this morning. It's not until you are back doing things for yourself and for what's yours, for your own family, and not caring about what the narcissists do. That's when you're going to start to enjoy the holidays again. When you are focusing back on what you can do for the holidays, where you can go, how you can spend your holidays, that's really what it's all about. But I understand, Brian. I understand. Thank you, Tanya. Yes, Tanya, your name is all over that drone, hun. Big Tanya. I love it. I'm gonna get a shot of the drone while it's flying again, so you can see all of your names wrapped around the drone. It is by far the coolest drone that's in the sky. The Royal We family just hanging up there. It is awesome. All right, Tanya. Okay, D-Doll says, Kevin, do you know what it means to parallel play? Two people are experiencing something together, but are not directly interacting with each other. Sounds very spiritual. Sounds mystical. Sounds like something I just saw in Star Wars, where Kylo Ren and Rey are sitting there fighting, and they're not even in the same room, but their swords are going, and they're somewhere in this weird realm that puts them together. Is that what you mean by parallel play? Two people are experiencing something together, but not directly interacting with each other. I have often thought about D-Doll, this idea of, when you're thinking about somebody, they're thinking of you. And this is really interesting when it comes to dealing with narcissistic abuse. How many of you realize that you can spend a lot of hours and a lot of waking time being angry and upset and stewing over what the narcissist has said or what they've done? I've often wondered if there is a connection, if they feel it too. A lot of times people say no. The narcissist is out doing what narcissists do. They're living their best life, jumping from one partner to the next. They're with the new supply. But I'm not so certain. I don't know D-Doll, I often wonder if there is some parallel play there, right? When there's that much anger and frustration and hostility and bitterness that has created such a tension between people, between families, it's hard to imagine that that tension doesn't coexist between the two parties. In other words, some people would look at what we're doing here, talking about the narcissist, and say that we are the ones that are uh, ruminating or keeping it alive or whatever. But the reality is that narcissists aren't trying to do anything to make it better. They're staying away from you after a certain point because they know, because they're ruminating, right? They've created this tension and it exists too. They've made up their mind. They don't like you. They've made up their mind they're going to be better than you. They've made up their mind since you left them, since you know who they really are. They've made up their mind that they cannot have anything to do with you because you'll expose them. So perhaps there is something real to parallel play. Perhaps it really does exist. And it's a good question. Something kids do, play in the same room but not with each other. That's why it's parallel. Interesting. What? Yes, exactly. H. Howland. What? I'm more hurt than angry. Yes, that makes complete sense. Narcs play like that. Yes. Lies, mind games, they have to have center stage, so of course they play parallels. Soul ties, right, Teresa? Soul ties is another way of establishing that. Soul ties are very real. And what's interesting about soul ties is I used to think that a soul tie had to be something that was sexual in nature. It doesn't. Soul ties can be created through a nurturing relationship. Soul ties are created through parents and children. There's strong soul ties that are created there. Soul ties are obviously created with intimate relationships. Sexual relationships can create a soul tie. But good friendships can also create soul ties. I read an article talking about the biblical story of King David and how he had it said he had a very fond love of Jonathan, who was King Saul's son. And, there's a connection. There's a soul tie, right? This is the kind of soul tie that we grow with people who are narcissistic, that gets crushed and it gets ripped out, that soul tie. But it still exists from our end. We still feel connected. They've severed it at their end. They've severed it, saying, I don't want you, I don't like you. We're still standing there with our soul tie, extending out to them, spraying all over the place, hurt and anger from the wound. And soul ties are real. We have to learn how to cut soul ties, and a lot of times it takes a lot of work. It takes prayer. One of the things I've learned is that it has nothing to do with being unforgiving, right? Unforgiveness. I thought for a long time that maybe unforgiveness is what keeps the soul tie there, and that's not it. You can be forgiving and forgive people and still have that soul tie. The soul tie is that longing. It's that it's when a baby is born, it's fed from the umbilical cord. That's a tie that goes from the mother into the baby, right? It provides food and air and oxygen. And in certain relationships, parental relationships, families, friendships, spouses, you get that attachment, you get that tie where food and oxygen, love, energy, all of that is being delivered to you and you're delivering it back. And when the narcissistic abuse hits, when the abuse side of them hits, they're cutting that umbilical cord off and you feel like you're suffocating and you're losing and you're not getting that food. You're not getting the nourishment anymore and you're starting to wither away, but you're not. In reality, what's going on is you're like that baby and you're actually being born again and you're taking breaths for the first time, right? So for many of you, I would suggest that to look at it this way. In a way, leaving the abuse behind you is in a way you turning and learning how to breathe on your own not need the narcissistic family members, father, mother, whatever was in your life, ex-spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-friends. You don't need them to carry anything through that umbilical cord anymore, through that soul tie. You let it shrivel off. Imagine that soul tie making another little belly button on you, right? And that's it. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes I just enjoy these little analogies. Gives me ideas to make videos. I wonder if I can pull that off, a video where I use illustration of, no, I'm not going to go there. No, there's no way. Can't do that. Can't do that. How do I break the soul tie between them and our children that's being poisoned? Hardest thing. It's always hard when you are dealing with a narcissist and your children. It is hard because you have to do the best job that you can as a parent to make your soul tie stronger. That's the answer, right? What's going to happen? The children are naturally going to gravitate towards where they're fed the most. And I don't mean stuffing their face with McDonald's Happy Meals, okay, and popcorn at the movie theaters. That's not the type of feeding I'm talking about. Children need to be fed with energy, love, mental, emotional nourishment, okay? If you're feeding them, then you will create the stronger soul tie, right? That's going to be our little, we'll keep that on the down low. Shh, right? Start practicing that. Forget about the poison, right? And someday, if you just focus on nourishing your children and creating that healthy soul tie, at some point they will realize that the tie with the narcissistic spouse is nothing but poison. They're not going to want anything to do with that. You may not see it now or next year or the year after that or the year after that, but it will happen so long as you focus on your soul tie, your connection, your nourishment. This is the number one piece of advice I could give parents who are dealing with narcissistic ex-spouses and they're worried about the children. A lot of times what happens is you get so focused on how the narcissistic is filling the kid's head with poison that every time you're with the kids or every time you're with the child, you end up spending and wasting all that time complaining, asking questions, and doing whatever to the children. They don't know what to do. They're getting it on one end with the ex-spouse. Now they're getting it over here with you. And that's not healthy for anybody, right? So the only way to really win that war is to plan now for the war to be long. And the end of the war is when your children are grown and you have a nice, healthy, loving relationship. That's when you've won that war. But it starts now by focusing on just nourishing them and nourishing a healthy soul tie. Right. I know it is hard. You feel absolutely lost in the rage because they hurting the kids. Right. I understand. But you can be the one who nourishes the kids. You follow me? If they're hurting the kids, obviously if it's to the point of hurting them to where child services needs to be called, right, then you do that. But if we're talking about the type of hurt that I think you're referring to, which is little negative words here and there about you, perhaps, that you can't do anything about except what I just said. Focus on giving them good nourishment throughout the rest of their life, and you will win. Yeah, D is absolutely right. Listen, and I speak this from experience. I was a pawn in my parents' game between my mom and my dad for a long time. For a long time. I didn't know who was right and who was wrong, who I could side with, who I couldn't side with. And as you saw in the video I uploaded this morning, I had to watch my mother wither away and die because she was never able to just get that advice and complete and find that understanding that her only responsibility was to nourish us as children. But she was so hurt and so devastated over narcissism. She didn't know. Nobody knew of narcissism back then. What we didn't. I mean, it existed, but nobody talked about it, right? People didn't really talk about what was going on behind closed doors in families. You know, my dad left, and I love my dad. I spend time with my dad. He's a very good man. He is a good man, but at that time, he wasn't prepared to be married, and he left my mom and left his children, and our relationship has been what it is. It's been a strained relationship, but it's there. I love him. You know, it's there. My mother did the best job she could to raise us, but she started to dive headfirst into more toxic relationships, even worse toxic relationships, and that ultimately just hurt her and hurt her. And my brother and I, we couldn't do anything. We watched. I did find myself, what's the word? Consoling to her when she would be heavily drinking and talking about stuff. And I would sit there for hours sometimes and just listen. And I talked about this in a video, the empath strategy guide, that I believe this is where I developed the empathy, was from sitting there and just listening to my mom get all this stuff out. Stuff I should have never heard. I heard from my mom. She was so hurt. She was so broken. And I struggled with knowing why. So I didn't have the right words. I didn't have the encouragement. There wasn't a no contact rule to talk about. And that was why I needed to spend time over the holiday with what I know now, something I avoided doing. You know, for over a decade, my mom has been gone. I went back and I read that note, and I made that note real quick when I was there. Literally, because I was there with my family and to spend time on my own journey, I literally just felt I need to write this, and I just started to write it out right there. And I said, I need to go and take my children. I'm going to go visit where my mom is at. I'm going to read this letter because it's the truth, right? What I witnessed my mom go through, and I'm not talking about just the horrible things of what she experienced with people in her life, but what I witnessed her going through as far as the deterioration of her soul and of who she is, the letting go of herself, the trying to find the comfort in all the wrong things in life because she couldn't escape the pain. That issue that she left with, that is such a huge motivational drive for me. This is what really, and I know I can sit here and say all day long that I experienced narcissistic abuse, and I did. But what really happened was the abuse that I experienced, the verbal, confrontational, horrible family dynamics that I experienced, awakened inside of me that reality that's exactly what my mom went through. But she didn't have the guidance. She didn't have a place where people understood. And many people were out there, right? There were no communities for that back in the 70s or 80s. The life changed poorly. Yeah, D, you're right. Many older women go through the life change poorly. And D, you're interesting. You're interesting. You are interesting, D. It's very interesting you say this life change, because one of the things that I want to share with you all is that narcissistic abuse is a life-changing moment. It's a life-defining moment. We are all moving up from level to level, from glory to glory. Narcissistic abuse, when you experience that, it's one more awakening chapter in your life that needs to take place. It's I don't know how many of these we're going to go through in life, but you can call them growing pains, growing spurts, whatever. But you'll realize throughout your life at different stages, you felt different things, intense emotions. Narcissistic abuse is one of them. It is a life change. It's a difficult life change because you're looking at more than just the relationship. You're looking at the whole world. You're looking not only at the ex who did you wrong, parents who did you wrong, but everything is suspect. The world you live in is suspect. Everybody's a excuse me, I had to cough. Everybody's a narcissist, right? I've been fighting this cold too. Oh man. Part of the trip in California, I had a pretty bad cold, but I got over it. Yes, you are, D. You are so very interesting. Right on. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you all are having a fantastic night. And I hope that you are going to be having a good rest of the week. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. No telephone calls tonight. That's okay. And we'll be back next week. I want to thank all of you for your support of the Royal We. Those of you who are supporting through Patreon, your generous support does definitely help continue this to go. I am going to continue to focus and push on the organic channel and upload videos. I am definitely working on the creativity behind the videos. That's what I enjoy doing. And I told you that the Royal We is going to be heading in a new direction, so you can expect more videos in the future to be a mixture of hopefully good, entertaining content and nice shots using the drone that you provided, and also a great message behind it. That's the hope, to help encourage people going forward. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you. Just so that you all know, for those of you who are new to the channel, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Hey, if this channel gets up past 1,000 people, I'll be able to go live from mobile device, which would be pretty cool. That being said, keep going on. And I will be popping up back into the Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2020. And I like that 2020. Isn't that like a show? 2020, right? 2020 has a ring to it because this is going to be a different year. This is going to be a new year. We're going to put the things of last year behind us. We're going to move forward into a new journey, new exciting things. And you, the Royal We family, is going to be a huge part of it. Yes, join the Facebook group. Thank you, Tanya, for putting that up there. The Facebook group is where you're going to get a lot of healing. There's a lot of people in there going through exactly what you're going through. So join the Royal We Facebook group. And I'll be popping up in there as well. You can also find me on Instagram at Join the Royal We. Also visit the website, www.jointheroyalwe.com. If you would like one-on-one time with me to work through some issues, you can schedule a one-on-one appointment through the website, www.jointheroyalwe.com, under the appointments and scheduling. And there's options to do Skype, phone call, email, whatever works best for you to get that one-on-one. With that, everybody, thank you so much. And we'll be back next Monday night live right here. Hey, the deal still stands too. You know, as far as I'm waiting for the day to go live every single night and get this thing going. We'll see how that goes. We want to get a lot more subscribers to make that happen, because it can be draining. Do it all. KK Bootsy. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Lots of love. Have a great night, and we'll see you next Monday night.